Well, hello there everybody, this is ATrueNerd here, and we are continuing our little instructional video set on building a little robot, a cheap robot, whatever. This is going to be the chassis I'm going to use for this example. However, I am going to go over a few things that may be of concern to somebody who wants to build a cheap robot. I mean, you can build this out of anything. I mean, the possibilities are limitless. I mean, you may want to buy the motors with the wheels. Those are about $2 on eBay. This chassis, $10 on eBay with the motors. $10 US anyways. I mean, you get a little spinny wheel, you get the two plates. I mean, they're not terribly well made, but man, they work. So I want to build this little guy, and yeah, so let's do that. But first I want to show you a few things about motors. So what we can basically do whatever we want. We can, let's just take a quick gander here. This is one that I put together. Oops, if you pardon me. This is one that I put together some time ago. Just a little gear motor, and I glued some a toy wheel to it, and it worked. And it was just a small little robot, and it did what it had to do. You can here is the gear motor that I used. Let's get in the frame here. For the wheels themselves. These guys are a little bit pricey. They're about $6 on eBay. You can use these guys. They are fairly slow rotation speed, but if you have a big wheel to put on it, that would be ideal. I mean, you don't need the robot to go super fast. In fact, you probably don't want it to go that fast. Knowing where it's going and having it take a while is sometimes ideal, because you have time to allow the robot to react to, say, hitting a wall, or seeing, I don't know, the wall coming nearby, or having motion detection. All those things, they can help the robot react. If your robot is too fast, you will have a very difficult time having it do anything controllable. Now, if you buy really top of the line sensors, and you have you have a good processor in behind it, and good logic, and you can do stuff like DARPA type stuff. But this is, we're just building a cheap ass little robot to have fun with. Anyways, like I said, this motor, very slow, cheap. I think I bought it for $1.50 on eBay. Again, an eBay item. You can buy this guy for, I believe it was, with the wheel, I think they're like $3 with the motor and wheel pair. Now you'll notice that the axle will run to both sides. That's not so you can drive them together. One side can be for, well, you'll have to switch sides sometimes, right? Depending on which side this is on. You might want to run an encoder, so there'll be a disc with some slots or grooves in it, and you run an infrared sensor over top of it, a little slot sensor, and you can tell how far the wheel has rotated. Anyways, those are fairly cheap. I would recommend these any day for a cheap little robot like this. Absolutely. Now, I bought a couple of these a while back. I believe they are Roomba wheels. I am not 100% certain. Let me see, where's the other one? Let's take a look. This one's kind of snicked off. They were a pair, as you can tell. And if you look on the side, there is an encoder here, right? So that would be a quadrature output, more than likely, right? There are tutorials on quadrature outputs and stuff like that that would put anything I could say about them to shame. And this is just a straight up DC motor, so there's nothing really to worry about here. I believe it is. I mean, there's only 2 leads. I can't see it being anything else. So, yeah, you can buy these relatively inexpensively. You can even just take apart an old Roomba. A lot of maker spaces, a Roomba I should say. A lot of maker spaces, people have donated the Roombas to them. Go ahead, have at her. They're good motors. These look, I mean, they're sturdy as hell. I mean, nothing wrong with them. One thing to consider when you are, let's say you're going to build your own chassis, right? You're going to build your own chassis, you're going to make it out of popsicle sticks or a chunk of wood or anything you want, and you're going to attach the wheels to it. Keep in mind that, keep in mind the position of the things that you put the position of the wheels and whatnot. So let's just draw our own little virtual guy here. Let's say I took a chunk of wood, right? And I want him to drive along. Now imagine I have my 2 fixed wheels. These are my drive wheels. So I've got those little yellow motors and I've got them over here somewheres. Right, let's try to match this up. I mean, it's beautifully illustrated. And there we go. And these guys, they rotate. Right? They are my driving wheels. They will push me forward. If I reverse them, they will turn me that way. One thing to consider is what you put up front. Now, in a situation like this, it is not a good idea to put, say, 2 free wheels. You might think that's a good idea. However, what that limits you to do, or limits you in, is, let's say I want to turn him this way, right? Well, I can't just take a hard bank. I can't just reverse this and turn that forward and then have him turn. These wheels are going to be a problem. What I then have to do is I have to make sure both of them move forward, right? But this one has to move forward more. And in that case, I already am moving forward, and I will have to turn. Instead of being able to turn on a dime, instead of being able to go like this and like that, I have to take a long ways around. Be certain, or consider what you're putting on it. You can put the wheels in the center, and you can put a little swivel guy here, right? He can go any which way, let's say. And you're cruising. You have to remember that, and you want to keep it in the center of balance. If you have the wheels in the center and you have the swivel up here, don't put anything heavy up here, right? You don't want anything heavy there. It'll just knock the thing up. And yeah, so considering the chassis design is actually really important, and what you want it to do. Do you want it to, are you making a line follower? Are you keeping it away from walls? Is it going to, I don't know, encounter stairs? I mean, how sturdy is this thing going to be? So think of all those things before you build your chassis or order one. I mean, one like this, general purpose, but just basically it's not going to go anywhere but a nice smooth floor. Maybe some shallow carpet and some standard walls. I mean, it's not going to be on gravel or anything like that. And yeah, so another thing to consider is whether you want to run encoders or not, pardon the page, all the ink leaked through from the last drawing. You'll want to consider whether you want to run encoders or not. Encoders basically allow you to see how far the wheels have rotated. Now, if one wheel is slipping, you won't be able to know. You won't know at all. Because you really don't, you can't, how would you detect it? You would have to know if how you're moving. You'd have to scan the ground or whatever you're on and compare it to the wheels, right? So in that situation you wouldn't know, but it's a good idea to have encoders in some cases for this kind of situation. Let's say you want your robot to go completely straight. Give it a line like this, right? Now, I think you can imagine if your bot's like this and he's got his two wheels. Now, if both wheels are moving at exactly the same speed, he will have no problem going straight forward. However, let's say even if the motors are running at the same speed and the wheel sizes are different, you can get a slight deviation over time. Let's say that's 10 meters. Right? However, if even the best built motors, even if you apply the same amount of power to them with the same duty, you can get wild differences. So you'll get even more change. So you'll have to correct some other way, and that will, who knows? You can pre-adjust for it. So you can measure it, and then in software, when you have everything built, say, oh, well, we always move this wheel faster. So, and then you can try to correct for it. For the most part, that does work. But like I said, again, wheel size differences and things like slippage. If you have more than one swivel wheel, I guess you could say, or like a little notch or whatever. Sometimes they come like this. Let me see. I've got this guy here. Sometimes you can get a guy like this. If you have more than one, that can be a real problem because it can make one of your wheels slip. Right? Especially as your wheels settle and get smaller. So keep that in mind because it'll pivot from there to there to there to there. Right? So something to consider, something to think about. And we have here our, well, this is one I've been wanting to try out for a while. I don't know if I will yet, but maybe I'll power it up and we'll see how it works. These ones are about 30 bucks. But the nice thing about treads is that, any kind of, well, certain kinds of obstacles anyways, because the angle of incidence is lower, right? You can have like a little pebble or a rock and it can go underneath, right? It's like a wedge, right? Whereas a wheel, a small wheel, well, it might just snag the wheel and make it turn around like a shopping cart. So that's something to consider too. Anyways, that's all I really have to say about chassis right now. I mean, we are going to go ahead with this particular one. So, I mean, it doesn't really make a big difference. We could, you can build your chassis out of anything you want, and remember that. I've built a little one out of popsicle sticks, and I used a paper clip for the front. So never be discouraged about not having a bit of money or whatever. You can rip the stuff out of other projects, or gear motors. You can get them out of a variety of places. I mean, I'd have to actually look and see, but I mean, gear motors are not too difficult to come by. Sometimes printers have them. Another option you can use is if you well and truly cannot get a gear motor like this, and you're doing this on the cheap or as a project, again, in printers you have stepper motors, lots of them, tons of them. So you can use those, and I mean, if you're good you know, if you're reasonable, you know, you have a reasonable skill with electronics, you can do it. You can get stepper motors to work for it, and it kind of serves as a built-in encoder. It's not perfect. I mean, if you stop a stepper motor, you still won't know, but you stop one of the wheels with an encoder, it will know. Anyways, you guys have a good day or night or whatever it happens to be, and remember to keep on building. And I'm going to continue on with the third part of this little tutorial. Good night.